Hey all. Hopefully you can hear me. Welcome to another scruffy edition of the Power Hour. And let's see if I'm actually broadcasting anything or if I'm talking to myself, which I do normally, but I'm not too interested in doing it on YouTube. Um, Hope everyone is doing well. Oh, there are the bagpipes. Oh, of course, the circle of death. And nothing matches the preview. Okay. Justin, thank you for joining us. Tracy Thompson. No problem. Tracy, I'm glad you're here this week. Thanks for joining us. Corey Jackson, Saint of the Sinners. Good morning. Rick Crawford, Crimson, Sean, how you doing? Okay, I am getting the Circle of Death. Um, Not here on the pickup, but I am getting it on the feed. So hopefully it's not too bad this week. Last week was a disaster on there, but the weather's nice, so maybe people aren't watching as much YouTube tonight as last week, or watching anything, and taking up all the streaming bandwidth available for the building. Because it's just, I believe, one cable coming in, and everybody shares it all. What do we got? 80 apartments? I always forget the count. Justin, thank you. T. Getz, hello, thank you, sir. Florida Vapes, good evening. Stream's good for you? Excellent. I mean, we hear it all the time with now the Vape Show and Vape Team and any other lives, TVP or Jay Hayes or any of the lives you may be watching, that it can be very weird where the problems are. You never know whether it's your own local streaming or whether it's something with YouTube or something with the neighborhood or who knows what. 'Cause I'm still getting the, hey, we get issues, circle of death on the feed here when I'm monitoring in the tablet, but everything looks good up here. Oh, crap. Well, the buffet is in the other room because I forgot to bring it in here, but I brought out the Vindicator 21. I'm going to be picking up the copper housing for it because there's a copper contact, but there's been for a while a copper housing, and test that to compare it to the all stainless version I did testing last year, and then that or the ruby is going to go to one of my patrons as a giveaway. So hopefully that'll be an interesting test. But I've been testing all day today, so I haven't been vaping yet. But tonight I was going to fire up the Vindicator. Uh, just felt like it since it was going to be out anyway to do some testing when the copper contact came in. One of these days, I'm going to remember to put the house phone on silent. We'll get two more rings, and maybe now we'll get one more. Thank you for your patience. The most stunningly annoying ring in the world, but it's easy for me to hear from anywhere. And let's say hello to a couple of people here. Hazazida, greetings. Hello. Hope you're doing well. Hope you are. Phil, welcome. Rebels never die. The Mooch Man. Corey Jackson, welcome. Cholo Ranch, hello. Cholo, is that you calling? Ryan Avery, and for everyone, battery space mooch in the front. I need that nice bright red tag to be able to see your question and differentiate it, separate it from just chit chat uh, between you guys and gals. Gals. Wow. Interesting word. So Ryan Avery, my batteries keep going to 0 volts after only 10 draws on them. What could cause this? Uh, Using them, wait, 0 volts? I, how are you measuring 0 volts means like the protection. Are these protected batteries? Because it sounds like, because just using them really, really hard, you might get them down to, even if you pull them down to like 2 volts, they're going to bounce back up to 3 point something. So it sounds like they're protected batteries, and the protection circuit is snapping off, turning off the power to the battery, or turning off the battery power, because you're running them past the protection point. I don't know. Um, Right, you're running 30 Samsung 30Ts? How are you measuring 0 volts um, on that? Because are they shorted? Okay, so your night core says 0 volts. UMS4. I don't know anything about the Nikkor. Tracy Thompson, hey, um, to know, but it actually shows 0 volts, or does it say 0%? That's an important differentiation. Ruff McGruff, welcome. Justin, good point. Yeah, certainly they could be piece of crap fakes. Tracy, I'm okay. Thank you. Well, eh, okay. I'm better now that the bagpipes out front have stopped. I don't mind bagpipes. I couldn't go to a bagpipe concert, but it's every night and it's the same thing, and it's all for our 7 p.m. good cause thing. Right. Yes, 0 volts and they won't charge anymore. Oh, okay. So it's not they go to 0 volts and you charge them up and they go to 0 volts. Um, oh wait, you said they keep going to 0 volts and they won't charge anymore. Well, they're screwed. Don't try to charge them. The protection circuitry, not circuitry, protection device inside the battery, last ditch protection device, sounds like it tripped, which means they were short circuited because even really, really hard use. And how hard were you using them? 0.82 coils? No, that your 30T should last 2 days with those. Um, it sounds like you have a short circuit. I would take that atomizer, get it on a regulated mod, and check the resistance and check every square inch of that mech, and do not use it till you find out what zapped those batteries. I mean, if there's a short circuit, we're lucky those batteries didn't explode. If there was a short circuit, but that's the only thing I can think of that would trip the protection device. It's called a CID, current interrupt device. Essentially, it's a mechanical circuit breaker. There's a spot welded disc, a spot welded point between something that does this, something that does that. At the point between them, it's spot welded together and it rips apart, snaps apart permanently. Well, you can do some very dangerous things to push it back down, but comes apart permanently, should be permanent, and disables the battery to keep it from exploding from a short circuit. Phil Lee, I agree. Good recommendation. Tracy Thompson asked, how do I join Battery Mooch? There isn't a join button. You want to support me monthly. Tracy, thank you. Patreon.com. And you do a search for battery space mooch, or I think the link's in the description section for Patreon, and you can start there at $2 a month. I was thinking about turning on memberships here, but I hadn't done it yet. I'll look into that and turning it on here and see what's going on. But you can get, as a patron, you get an opportunity to win in the giveaways. So that might be better. I don't know what I can offer members here, which is why I haven't done anything. I don't get a lot of devices, and I destroy the batteries I get. Though speaking to Torin about getting some of their the Torin regular Torin mech, semi mech, protected mech, 2 versions now, and then the Torin Max, getting in a few of those. So my patrons will be getting those for giveaways if we can work out something with Torin to do some voltage drop testing. Hazazita, I gave that an accent it probably shouldn't have. When rewrapping a cell, is it better to use a self-adhesive paper insulator disc or a non-adhesive plastic one, or does it not make a difference? Well, there's plus and minuses for both. Stop the scrolling. Um, the paper self-adhesive ones, well, goes into place and stays in place, and it can take higher temperatures without melting. That's a plus. Negative for the paper discs, self-adhesive or not, is that if you get any e-liquid on top, e-liquid can soak into the disc, and it's hygroscopic. What's the one that absorbs water? Hydro or hygro? Anyway, it's water loving, so you can get a little moisture getting absorbed by the VG in there, or it can just plain old trap moisture underneath if the battery ever gets wet, and that can cause rusting underneath. And eventually, the rusting might be a slight issue. It's hard for that to do it, but it's just not good for the battery. With the plastic ones, you don't have to worry about them getting wet. E-liquid, you can always, rip everything off, wipe it down, put it back, but it won't swell up, it won't soften from being e-liquefied if it's plastic, but it can melt at higher temperatures. So if you're running your cells really, really hard, you may want paper ones. Just don't get any e-liquid on them. If you're flooding all the time and getting your batteries wet, I'd say stick to the plastic ones, and you're just going to have to uh, hold down one corner of the wrap and kind of get the hairdryer on the other corner, just to have that come over and kind of hold the plastic one without the adhesive in place and then you can go around and do the rest of the top. Actually, let me tilt these up a little more, keep the reflections out. So half, 6 of one, half dozen the other. It's up to you, which might be better for your use. Justin, thank you for the link. Ryan Avery says it happened twice with two different 30T batteries. That's bad. Where'd you buy your 30Ts from? If it was any of the places that are common where it's a trusted source, then I'd say you got genuine ones. But if you bought them off eBay or Amazon, then maybe you could have fakes, and that's the cause. Otherwise, I would say you got a short circuit somewhere. Tracy says better off on Patreon. Patreon, YouTube takes a lot of money from you. There we go. Thank you. Uh, but you might get some stuff anyway. And you know what? 90% of my posts are just to my patrons. I don't post it to Instagram and Facebook and other places. Just hey, it's something interesting or intermediate results or stuff that I won't mention in a test report, but I thought someone might know. Links to interesting things to read. That just goes to my patrons. Outback Vaping says, got the Brazil thanks to you, Bloody Ripper Tube. Thanks for everything. You're welcome, sir. Phil Lee, Hydro, thank you. Hydro is for measuring specific gravity. There we go. Alex Davila. Oh, dude, you know how much it costs to get the search dogs out? Fuck. And now you show up and saying, oh, I'm here. Go get the dogs back. What the hell? So I finally wrote down, because I'm too old and too spastic to remember, and I shouldn't use that word, too much of a spaz, to remember anything that I watched just yesterday. So some of the suggestions you guys had, Ozark, I started watching that. That's a damn funny show. There's some good casting in that show. I've only seen 2 episodes, but that was cool. I started watching Space Force yesterday. That's hysterical. I've only seen 1 episode, but that's some pretty funny stuff there. I caught Hotel Artemis, excuse me, uh, 2 days ago. You know what? That was better than I thought it would be. It's kind of like The Purge with, um, I can't think of what else, but interesting version of kind of The Purge and Altered Carbon kind of thing. And the nurse was terrific as a character. Um, Django Unchained. Fired up again last night, and it's been long enough since I'd seen it that I'm loving it even more than the first time. I remember liking it the first time, but now I'm loving it even more because I'm thinking watching it with different eyes, and or in a different kind of mood. Maybe I'm more in the mood to watch it. Definitely a Tarantino. Yeah, anyone who gets shot, there's blood, just quart of blood flying off in 15 feet. But that's a nice, nasty movie. I'm having fun with that one. So, what are you guys watching? What other things are out there? Justin says Space Forward is great. Robert Corbin, battery space Mooch in the front, please, so I can see it. There is no best battery charger. What we want is, and I don't care how much money you have, there's no best. Because the best for somebody might be a $17 charger with red LED, green LED. That's it, because their mind just explodes if they have to look at a big screen of 1,000 numbers. They don't care. Charged, not charged. That's all they want to know. Someone else, like me, I want every setting known to mankind with a good intuitive user interface, please. Uh, and because I want the adjustability, because I'm charging all kinds of different batteries and testing out different things. Brent Chadwick, thanks for joining us. Justin's watching Ramy, Ramy on Hulu. I'll have to look for it. I don't have Hulu, but maybe it's available somewhere else. How to Get Away with Murder. That's one of the reality ones, Tracy. I was on a reality kick for the longest time, and now that's dived down to some other things, um, just sheer entertainment kind of things, and then come back like Tiger King. I'm not going to watch even 2 minutes of that. Zero interest. Hot Ones, Hot Ones. That's the reality one. That's the one where they're all on an island or something, and they're not supposed to have sex. Is that the one? Am I thinking of? Rob Scanlon, hello. Brett sucks. I'm not gonna say anything. I'm watching you. Oh no. You know, I saw your shadow outside my window, dude. When in daytime, you can see when someone goes past the window, even with the blinds drawn, because you're blocking the outside light. You have to do this at nighttime. Chill Rans, Firefly. That was fun. And then Serenity, of course, is magnificent. Yeah, there we go. And then with the movie Serenity, all-time fave. Serenity was just a great movie. I'd never seen Firefly when I saw Serenity. Saw Serenity, went and watched Firefly. I liked the movie a lot more, but I could see how there would be that fan base built up with it as the characters developed in Firefly. Anime Lab. Okay. Double Indemnity. Double Indemnity. Oh, more like a podcast thing. Okay, I have to look up Hot Ones. Huh. All right, let me see what that, writing that one down, see what that one is. Dirk Gently, Robert Ellis says. The books are fantastic and the show is not disappointing. Dirk Gently. Book adaptions are usually magnificent. I enjoy it. You can tell just the breadth and depth of the characters and things, the storyline when it comes from a book, because there's just no detail, you know, in a lot of things that are just written for TV. Red Claw Inshine also did the same thing. Serenity first, then Firefly. But you enjoyed Firefly more. Okay. Movie was too sad in the end. There was a lot, there was sadness there. Phil Lee can only find I guess, number two and number three of Lord of the Rings on Netflix. All three were on just recently. Oh, wait, was it Netflix? Because I checked them out. Oh, actually, recently. I think it was like beginning of the year or last year. Maybe they, you know, yeah, cycled the first one. But you think if they had the other two, it's a classic binge to watch one, two, and three. Happy second season. Funny as hell. Hmm. See what that one is. Thank you. So I got, thanks to Boxcar Rick, I have a Galeazzi S4 that, you know, it was recalled. I'm doing an update video soon. But this one, I've had some reports of overheating. So I'm running this one hard and then been doing some protected cell testing, believe it or not. Been getting some requests from the flashlight users because there hasn't been a lot of stuff, certainly not anything high power. You know, I just posted the VapCell G50 thing. There haven't been a lot of releases for cells that we would be using as vapors. So, you know, hey, let's dive into a couple other things just to keep the test equipment going. So looking at these protected ones, and this actually uses, I was curious because it's using an LG MJ1, which is a great cell. So I figured, well, yeah, let's take a look at what kind of performance hit for the protection circuit board. And for the nerds out there, you know, here's the top contact. And then underneath it, they've got the MOSFETs and a bunch of different components. Maybe that one's in focus. Not sure. It's hard for me to see in focus. So I want to see what did this do because I measured the internal resistance and it was almost 250 milliohms. The LJ, the LGMG, oh, LG MJ1 has a internal resistance of about 45 milliohms, and it went to 250 with the circuit board protection board in place. So that's a pretty high resistance circuit board. Using the circuit board or using the battery as is, as you buy it protected, we lost about 25% of the capacity of the MJ1 at only 7 amps. And I couldn't even run it higher than 7 amps. The protection circuitry kicked in. I'm having a lot of problems talking today. Um, and it's rated 10 amps, but I can only get 7 amps out of it. And you lose 25% of your capacity at that. So that's a very poor protection board in my mind. You can do a lot better than that. But of course, it costs money. I've got a Wuben, which is supposed to be a rather hard to get 2600 milliamp per hour flashlight cell in testing now. And I fired that one up. There's no rating even on it. I fired up at 10 amps, protection circuitry instantly kicked on. I'm thinking, all right, 2600 milliamp per cell, I get it. for flashlights, but I thought it would be rated maybe true 10 amps, considering it's a lot lower capacity than the Olight I tested. So it looks like there's a lot of optimistic rating in the flashlight community also. It'll be interesting to dive into that a little bit. Rick Waldman, good evening. Thanks for joining us. Corey, thank you for mentioning that. Tolerance, if all else fails, check Putlocker Movies for You. That one I've heard of, PrimeWire, or the latest site for 123 Movies to find out what you want to watch. It's always nice to ask here, though. Justin, always like to see that flashlight battery test too. I just ordered some 186 Sanyo NCR 18650 GAs, good sales for his Olight. And you can use in the Olight without all that extra length, because I think some of them require a button top or a huge long cell in order to fit. Saint Jacques says, why can't we use protected cells? I'm going to start thinking I'm having a stroke soon. In vaping, we can, but most of them don't fit because they're longer. And some of them, like this Olight, is 69 point something millimeters long versus 65. Some other, just like button top cells, are just a little bit longer. But the protected ones are several millimeters longer, and you can't get them into a lot of mods. Maybe in some mechs that you've got a lot of adjustability with. But in a regulated device where you just click them into place, there's often not enough room to get something 4 or 5 millimeters longer into the device itself. And also they have very low current ratings, like 7 amps or something like that. So you've got at 7 amps, yeah, maybe 20 watts. But if you're trying to use it above that, the protection board's just going to kick in and it'll turn off. The battery will turn off. Thank you, Justin. Saint Jacques, say a 30T protected. Change the CDR too low. Well, I don't think anyone would. You can't protect a 30T above 7 amps, maybe 10 amps for short periods of time. So protecting a 30T would be a waste. We could never protect it at that high level. There's too much heat created going through these little circuit boards at 30 amps, 20 amps, 15 amps, even 10 amps. There's a lot of heat created inside these boards, and they just won't survive. So they're often rated down at like 7 amps, 5 amps, 2 amps, or something like that. It's just too expensive to use the highest quality MOSFETs to act as electronic switches to turn the current on and off when the protection needs to kick in. And so no one's going to spend $30 on a protected cell. No, Olight, I think, has some cells almost that price. Tracy, thank you. Wow, Tracy just joined the $10 tier on Patreon. Thank you very much. That, every $10 patron that I have, each of those people lets me buy 1 or 2 cells for each person every month, and it really makes a difference. Thank you. Justin, yes, I have an older S20 for everyday carry. Okay, Justin's saying that he can fit flat tops or maybe use an adapter in his flashlight. Philly, 4 26-800s through a DNA 250C would last all week if you could lift it. Agreed. Yeah, I'm actually posting, probably not tonight, maybe tomorrow, my 26-800 review. It's a nice battery. For those who are unfamiliar, who aren't my patrons, Queen battery has a 26-800, essentially a long 26650. And one of my patrons had alerted me to it, sent me 2 of them. Thank you. I forgot the name. My apologies, because I'm astoundingly bad with names. It goes with my inability to speak tonight. And it's just to say, hey, here's something else other than what we always use. Is it any good? What else is out there? That's a question from one of my patrons. What the heck else is out there other than this very limited range of cells that we use? Is there anything better? Certainly things like 14-500s, 10-340s, whatever they are, micro cells, limited use for us. But some of the bigger ones, 26 millimeter, 32 millimeter, 28 millimeter cells, here's an option there. Instead of using maybe 2 21-700s, you use a single 26-800. What kind of options do we have? And for this 26-800, it's 6,800 milliampere hours. There's some options there. St. Jacques, good. Thank you, sir, for the 5 quid super chat. I appreciate that. Thank you. Sean Damerel, my Jet Beam C8R will accept laptops as well. I'm glad to hear that actually, because I would hate to think that the entire community was limited to buying low current cells, expensive ones, or some preposterously overpriced proprietary length kind of thing because of all the protection that they add on to one end. Phil Lee, yeah, something like a 26800, that would be for the custom modders, or a somebody that wants to step up to the plate and say, "Whoa, okay, we can get millions of these things from Queen Battery because it's a standard model. We're going to come out with a single 26800 regulated mod." I don't think any of them watch this show. A couple of manufacturers might, without me knowing, be patrons of mine, Patreon patrons, but maybe they'll see my post. But who knows? Once I post a test report, or something might happen. I think it'll take a lot of, I mean, it takes a lot of people screaming at them, thousands of people screaming at them before they go, okay, because they want to sell 50,000, not 1,000 of a device. Mitch, battery space Mooch in the front, unless you're just posting that to chat for chat users to respond. Is USB 4.0 charging faster? I don't remember the specs for 4.0. I don't even remember that being a 4.0, though it does sound familiar. I'm so dug into 2.0 and 3.0. No, 4.0, unless it inherently is a USB-C PD for power delivery standard. I think the 4.0 is probably, though, for faster communication standards. But if it wraps in the PD standard into it, then it can be faster, but it has to be supported by your charger and your device. USB-C connector shape, PD, power delivery, that's the standard for establishing communications to have higher power deliveries, up to 100 watts of charging power. Uh, it's that's a lot. Up to 5 amps, and you can go up to 20 volts with that and be 100 watts. So you can get 12 volts, 15 volts, 9 volts, 5 volts. There are other voltages in there that you can support. Then there's also the PPS, programmable power supply, where you can standard for latest USB, where you can actually program in different voltages and different current levels if the two devices talk to each other, the charger and the other one. So it's up to the device and the charger, whether they both support faster charging. Red Dog 78, please. Battery space Mooch in the front. Hi, Mooch. How are the Gliese batteries? Um, I haven't tested them in a while. I remember it being okay, but I don't know what they're rated now, and if they've made any switches in what cells they wrap or something like that. I remember it being decent. They're not something you go out and go, I want to buy Glises instead of Samsung, Mali cells, Samsung, Sony's, Muratas, LGs, etc. If the only one you can buy, they were okay when I tested them. I remember being close to the ratings, but again, I don't know what they're wrapping now. Philly says even USB 3.1 has to have fast charge, PD or QC. Yeah, there's also the QC standards too, the Qualcomm quick charging standard also. PD though I see is the way forward. Though I'm sure they'll QC will have they'll keep bumping things up. See, we're about halfway through. Okay. Yeah, Mitch Connor will Google it. Yeah, it's and check your devices, your charger and your devices. There are chargers now that support up to 3 amp or 4 amp charging, but it's not, that's for the battery. Out the USB ports for the chargers. Well, if you get a, AC adapter, or a USB charging adapter, from Anchor or Hawke or some of the other ones, or there's some now that talk about 200 watts worth of charging. That's not from one port, that's multiple ports. Then they'll support PD and QC, the better ones, like the Anchor I have. It's a 45-watt unit, supports essentially all the standards up to 45 watts. And I think now there's a 65-watt or 100-watt version. I was waiting till the prices came down a little bit with some newer technologies for shrinking the sizes so they can support higher power levels, but still in the same size charger. Robert Ellis says Gleason had some lipochemistry cells, didn't they? I believe they had one. Home Tech, the Home Stretch, I think, is a lipo or lipochemistry. And I think Gleason also wrapped a lipo cell for one of them. Everyone, battery space Mooch in the front, please. Mooch, I've always used Samsung 25. I'm guessing 25Rs because there are other ones. Are Moly cells better? Well, for high power levels, yes. There's not a lot of benefit if you're below 15 to 20 amps, but if you're above 15 to 20 amps, yeah. Get the Moly cell P26A. That's an 18650. And you can go up to 25 amps, less voltage drop. They're going to hit harder. They'll run slightly longer in a regulated device. Thank you, Justin. Phil Lee, QC is the standard on Android devices. There we go. So it has a big following. Scott Bogfoot asks, why don't conventional battery brands, Energizer, Duracell, etc., make 18650, 2700, etc.? Or do they not? We just don't see them. Because 18650s, 2700s, 21700s, 18350s, 26650s, all those, there is no authorized use outside of a battery pack for any of those round batteries. None. They are never supposed to be used outside of a fully protected, electronically and physically fully protected battery pack, and we use them at our own risk. They're not supposed to be used out there outside a battery pack. So Energize and Duracell will never make those batteries because it's an unauthorized use. It's just not supposed to be used that way. If you think about it, underneath the wrap and the top ring insulator. In fact, I'm doing a video on this. The positive and negative terminal are right there. So as the wrap gets worn, inevitably, you have a huge safety hazard inherent in the design of all those round cells. Whereas you get AA's and AAA's, positive on the top, negative on the bottom. They're not going to get short-circuited unless it's in your pocket with keys or something like that. But all the other round cells we use, the lithium ions, you can short circuit just putting them in and out of the device if the wrap is worn. That's an astoundingly bad design and probably the best indicator that these things, well, it's not a bad design. It's just fine for battery being spot welded into a battery pack. They're never being handled, but it's an astoundingly bad attribute to have in a cell if they're being handled a lot. And it's the best indicator that they are never meant to be handled or used outside of a battery pack. And we do take risks using. We have to never misuse or mishandle them. We've got to keep the wraps intact at all times. Chris, 25 asked 25 hours or 30 Qs, which is a better battery over its lifetime? I haven't done cycle life tests on the 25 hours, so I can't compare it to the 30 Q. Both treated well will last a long time though. But I don't know which one has a better cycle life. Sean Damerel, specifically, who seems that we are not supposed to use batteries? Oh, specifically, who seems that we are not supposed to use batteries the way we do? I'm not sure I understand the question, but none of the round cells we use are supposed to be used outside of a fully protected battery pack. Now, the companies that rewrap batteries or use the China or wrap China cells will say, no, it's fine, use them for vaping. But it's all the same, design that is, a real hazard when used outside of a battery pack, namely the positive and negative are 3 millimeters away from each other on top and can be easily shorted if the wrap is damaged. Deems, specifically who deems that we are not supposed to use batteries the way we do? All the manufacturers, Samsung, Sony, LG, Panasonic, Sanyo. Molicel embraces vaping, but even them, you're supposed to use it in battery packs. Samsung and LG are taking active measures now in the EU to stop sale of loose cells. They have sent cease and desist requests to some people here in the United States. I think it's just going to get stronger and worse as they try to enforce this. But right from day one, from the 1990s, all the data sheets say you use these in battery packs. You don't use them outside. If a manufacturer doesn't say it, that's probably because they're out of China, someplace where they can't be touched, so they don't care. They say, yeah, use them wherever you want. You can't touch us if something happens. St. Jacques says, I've heard Molicel actually approved of the cells to be used in vaping. Yes, they're the only manufacturer who supports us. But technically, it's to be used in battery packs only because it's got the same design. But they have decided we can be responsible and use their cells responsibly and not let the wraps get damaged. And I thank them for that. And I hope we will always use their cells responsibly. I hate to think someone didn't and decided to sue Molicel for it being a defective battery or something. Yeah, Samsung and LG are taking these active measures because they get sued when someone blows themselves up. That they're like, enough, enough. You know, we've tolerated this for now, but now we want you to stop using our stuff because you're suing us. Rick Waldman, super chat, $5. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the flashlight cell testing that you're doing. Is very much appreciated. Thank you. I'm hoping to expand it. It'll always be shunted to the side if a bunch of vaping, batteries I think vapors will come through. But I'm gonna mix it up and go in with there, mix it in with the other stuff. Because it's just, I mean, after about 325 batteries used by vapors, there's just not a lot now coming out. Most of the stuff that's out there I've tested. There's a ton of stuff in Asia I'd love to test, but I can't get my hands on it, and no one over there will send it to me because it's really hard to do. It costs a fortune. And the manufacturers won't because I'll bust their bullshit ratings. Phil Lesh, battery space Mooch in the front, please. Do both my batteries have to be married when using a stack section, especially when they're used in series? That's when it's most important. When they're used in parallel, their voltages will always, be the same. Well, at least, half a second after you stop vaping, the voltages will come back together. So yes, it's even more important in series to have married batteries. Lynn, hello. Thanks for joining us. Stuart, welcome, dude. Robert Ellis, expect to see more batteries with the thin, easily collapsible positive contacts. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that's just in some. Hoping they all keep like the 18650 LGs or the really thick, heavy ones. Only because if a manufacturer added that as a way to keep us from using them, there's a real problems there because they open themselves up, I think, liability-wise, because if it collapses down onto the venting disc, you can interfere with the operation of the venting disc, and that increases danger of using the battery, which is, why the thin top ones aren't great to use for vaping. Phil Les says, thanks. Couldn't get a straight answer. Don't remember what your question is, but you're welcome. Oh, used a series in a stack section. Yeah. There's very few instances when I don't recommend it because I don't know what the condition of people's batteries are if it's not married. So I'm forced to say, well, yeah, use married batteries for anything, just because I don't know the condition of the batteries. But in series, in a mech, yeah, that's important. James Potts says he ordered insulators for the 18650s. They are made of cardboard. Are they safe? No, nothing we use is safe. There's always some risk. Always. But I get what you're saying, but the word safe is a dangerous one to use because I think it leads to complacency. And this is why we blow ourselves up. In fact, I addressed this at the beginning of the show. I'll go through it really quick. Paper ones, they don't melt. The advantages, they don't melt, but disadvantage, they absorb e-liquid. Plastic ones, they do melt, but they don't absorb e-liquid. 6 of one, half dozen the other. You got to pick what works for you. If you're going to soak them with liquid, get plastic ones. If you run your batteries really hard, they might get hot, or God forbid, you short circuit your batteries regularly. Please don't do that. Then the paper ones can help because they don't melt and they're thicker. So, John, must be some nervous mech users in Asia, the amount of bad cells flying around over there. They don't know they're bad, though. They have no idea. The ENOOC, 35 amp, 3600 milliamp per hour, 18650 is hugely popular. And because it's a 5 amp battery or something like that, piece of junk, they run it with 0.03, 0.05 coils because that's the only way you can suck enough current out of them because the voltage plunges to like 2 volts. So you got to have a 0.03 coil to still have enough power going to the coils. It's just unbelievable, dysfunctional, not because of them, but because of the battery. The things, series of steps they have to do to get any kind of vape with these pieces of junk or the Toha 60 amp batteries, which they even took the ratings off the batteries now. It's just they'll tell all the vendors, oh, tell them everyone it's 60 amps, but there's nothing in the battery. 4 different capacities like 2200 to 30 something hundred mAh. They're all rated 60 amps. It is a wild, wild west out there, and I can't get my hands on them. I've, I've got some ideas for what I might do. I might call them out publicly in a shame video. Outback Vaping. It's wrong trying to blame the manufacturer for us using them as unintended. We take that risk. It's still less than smoking. Well, but some people say, hey, my face blew off. I'm suing everybody in sight. And so they sue the manufacturer. They sue all the manufacturers, which is interesting. I've seen lawsuits where they name, it's either like it's an LG battery, but they'll sue Samsung and Sony, Murata and LG and everybody, and distributors and all the other people. Because often all those people their lawyers will get together and they'll divide up a settlement, and you end up with a bigger settlement than if you just sued one person and that person declares bankruptcy. So they sue everybody. So everyone chips in towards the settlement of the lawsuit. It's it's terrible. It's terrible that anything happened in the first place, but then it's terrible what can happen afterwards too. Walter Publit, Toha cells are among the biggest perpetrators of overratings. I agree. I think I'm going to call them out in a shaming video and say, I call bullshit. Prove I'm wrong. Um, a friend that smokes a lighter blew up in her face yesterday. Wonder if they blame the manufacturer for it. Don't know. It all depends. I mean, there can be manufacturer defects in these things. James Pott, thanks. I thought they may have had to be plastic. For the insulators? No, there's benefits to both. I usually say, most people will get their batteries wet versus run them hot, because most people just go, whoa, they're getting warm, I'm going to stop. They don't let them get up so hot they can't touch them. So I usually say go with plastic just because the odds are batteries will get wet before they get hot. Big Red Vapor Channel. Good evening, Mooch. Sorry I'm late. Just woke up from Sunday shed time nap. Well, thanks for joining us. And Tover Yonder, still vaping less these days? Well, I always vape about the same. Well, actually, no, that's a lie. I vape more in winter, I think. Hot days or days where I'm running tests, I can't vape. I can't vape if I'm running tests indoors, and I'm not as enthused about going outdoors anymore because you can't, someone coughs 20 feet away from me, and I'm like, ah! So I have to go out without a mask. In New York, that's still an issue for me. So, I got to wait till I'm not testing, and I got the air conditioner running or something because I just don't like a big lung full of hot vapor if I'm steaming hot in this unbelievably hot apartment because of the pipes that run below my apartment. I have radiant floor heating, whether I want it or not. Uh, so I guess the answer is yes, but I still enjoy it. I still do it. I still get the urge. Like tonight, I'm sure when I'm typing out my notes for the Galisi video, I'm going to be stressed and I'm going to need to vape, but I won't be testing, and I'll be able to vape in this room. The other room, no, but in this one, I'll still be able to vape. Scott Bogfoot, is there a good story behind the Eveready 9 Lives Black Cat, or was it just a marketing thing? I don't know. That's a damn good question, though. What, especially with Black Cat, there's a lot of negative connotations often there. Is there something good mixed in with a black cat? 9 lives, but why a black cat? Is it just show up better, or was there something special that I picked with that? But I can see, 9 lives, your battery's got, just last longer. Is it that simple? Don't know. Good question, though. Lots of retracted messages. What am I missing? James Potts, thanks. My batteries never get wet. Stay dry in my Aegis. So there we go. The paper one's no problem. And they're probably self-adhesive. So that makes it easy, too. UK Toker 71. Hi, Mooch. Can I get a shout out for everyone at Freedom Vapes, please? Your channel gets mentioned on a daily basis. Well, sure as hell, we'll give a shout out to Freedom Vapes. Consider yourself officially shouted out on the Battery Mooch YouTube channel. Thank you for supporting my testing, and thank you for spreading the word about battery safety. And unless you guys are mentioning me, bad-mouthing me. Saint Jacques, last one from him, leaving batteries in locked mechs, yay or nay? Well, I mean, think about that question, though. My answer, I how could I possibly say it's okay? I don't know the circumstances. I don't know the mech. I don't know what you do or don't do. I don't know if there are kids around. I don't know anything. So by definition, if someone asks me a safety-related question, I have to answer erring on the side of safety and caution. So my answer is no, it's not okay. Surprise. Um, but there are a lot of good reasons for that. We don't, it just, it can never be better safety wise to leave them in than to not leave them in. Assuming you've got insulated cases and your kids aren't grabbing the cases and taking the batteries away. Assuming that, but batteries sitting in a case, you know, on a shelf someplace versus batteries sitting in a mech somewhere, it has to be, I feel, less risk to have them in a case than bring up the possible disaster scenarios for leaving them in the mech. So I would say take them out. I always say take them out. It gives you a chance to check their condition, stuff like that, as opposed to leaving them in and just running them down. It's so quick to take out. It gives you a chance to look at the contacts, to check the wraps or something like that. It's just part of what I do each day. But yeah, I can understand how some people would think it was a pain in the ass. Hydrix says Freedom Vapes rules. Cholo Ranch, exclamation for Freedom Vapes. Also light, also you light, excuse me. Have you had a chance to test any CATL batteries, especially the lithium ferrous phosphate? That's a low voltage, safer chemistry. No, not a single one. If you want, you can, if it's something you think vapors might be interested in, because they're very low energy density, they're low capacity, but if they have a current rating you might be interested in, or a size or capacity you think might make it worthwhile, especially if it's in series in a mech or something, then get hold of me on Facebook or Instagram or something, and send me a link. I'll take a peek. Chris, maybe a silly question? No. But which direction does current run from in a battery? Ah, that's a very complicated question. Conventional current comes out the positive end, not the electrons, but conventional current comes out the positive end. Actual electron flow comes out the negative side of the battery. So engineers will not do anything the easy way. Engineers decided, and it does make it easier for some things to say, hey, positive side, that's where the current comes out of. But they call it conventional current. That's not where the electrons come from. That comes out the negative end. But for some things, calculations, talking about electronic components and how they function and stuff, it just is easier and works better to use this standard of conventional current. Scott Bogfoot, do Central Park still have an Egyptian? Yes, the obelisk is still there behind around 80th Street in Central Park, a genuine Egyptian obelisk shipped here. Guess where? From Egypt. And there's actually some interesting stories online about the barge bringing it over and how they had to get it from the river because Central Park's in the middle of Manhattan, so you can come to either river. But now you have to transport this, what is it, 15-meter high, tons Egyptian obelisk across Manhattan to reach Central Park and then erect it. It's still there. It get brutally worn, though, because we don't have that. Well, we had decent acid rain actually for years and years, but that's gone down a lot. But it gets rained on and ice and et cetera and so forth. So it is getting pretty worn down. CCVJ with a super chat, $5. Battery Mooch, what is the effect on the battery or mod when vaping at 2 ohms and the voltage regulator reads 6 volts and wattage is 19? A single AVB 21700. You can ignore that. That is the voltage from the output of the regulator circuit board to the coils. So your regulator outputs 6 volts, but that has nothing to do with the input from the battery, which will never exceed 4.2 volts for each one, 8.4 volts for 2 of them. In 19 watts is a single battery device. You'll have to, let's like a DNA or a dicodes or something that can show you the battery voltage. Always assume the voltage is for the coil voltage and not the battery voltage. So the effect on the battery, none. Assuming it can handle 19 watts, and most can. On the mod, none, because it's designed to output 6 volts, maybe 7.5 volts, even higher for some devices. So you're okay there, as long as it's not getting hot, acting weird, your wraps are in good shape, et cetera and so forth. Standard safety precautions. Philly. Well, we got about 6 or 7 minutes. Philly. On the other hand, always removing them does increase the amount of handling, swings and roundabouts. Phil brings up a good point. Always removing batteries from your device can add wear, particularly in a regulated device where it's sliding in and out, or in a charger. And a mech, coming out the one end, just straight in or out, maybe not as much wear, but that is a very good point. I always say, hey, take them out anyway, because the scenarios, um, for me, are worse, particularly if you have children or something, leaving the batteries in, versus taking out additional wear. At least you can look at the battery immediately and decide if there's additional wear or something. But Phil brings up a really good point. Philly says if the Egyptians could do it 2,500 years ago, it should really be a dawdle now for the obelisk. Hydrix wonders if Gormigorn comes here often. I think those two may have to get a room. Sid, thank you for joining us. Good evening. Ah, Sid, no battery Mooch in the front? Shameful, shameful behavior. Mooch, when you tested the MC3000 charger, did you test the version with one fan on the bottom or with two? Two. It was the latest one, at least when I charged. And I don't remember the version numbers, but you can check. My test report lists the firmware, hardware, and something. There was like 3 different version numbers or something. So I tested the dual fan one. Craig F. Mooch, how you doing? How you doing, huh? Frickin' A. Thanks for joining us, huh? It's nice. Tova Yonder asked if I've heard of the Nikola Tesla shower. Any idea how it worked? No. A mechanical water shower? Or is this a term for some kind of electric device? No, I haven't heard of a shower at all. That's interesting. Rick Waldman, is there any news that you haven't posted about the Gear Falcon? Just curious. Well, any news that I have, post to my patrons. When the full test report comes out, I'll post publicly. But no, it came out of, well, actually, maybe there's news. It came out of the 72-hour, as continuous as I can. It's about 18 hours a day, continuous charging. I didn't have a failure. Well, that's good, because that doesn't mean it's reliable long-term, reliable unit. It just means it doesn't have an obvious, incredible heat issue right away. So now it's just getting it into the queue and for full testing. It already is in the queue for full testing. Sid one, yes. In my opinion, could battery wraps be made better? Scott Bogfoot. Oh, absolutely. But then we need our mods made bigger, and our mechs hollowed out further. We need more room for them. Get a 0.5 millimeter polycarbonate wrap, and there are polycarbonate shrink wrap. There is polycarbonate shrink wrap available. Now you've got this, but there's a problem though. They can never be made indestructible. So someone just having a wrap that lasts a lot longer means they're going to spend a lot less time checking it because they're assuming the wrap is good because it's almost indestructible. But then sometime down the road, there's going to be a problem with it anyway. So that the risks still happen. And by having really durable wraps with redesigned devices to fit them, there's complacency that can build up. I would like to see, an overmolded cell, a millimeter or two of hard plastic around it and recessed contacts or something like that. But that's a completely different design now, and it will never happen. Craig F asked how the UVC sanitizer is coming out. Fine. My patrons got to see the almost final version, but I ended up moving one of the lights, and I've been using it once in a while for some things that I just don't want to wait. Like this came in, and instead of waiting for it to waiting a day or two, I just threw it in the sanitizer and came back in half an hour. CCVJ with well, actually, a cute thumbs up, $3 super chat. Thank you very much. About 2 more minutes. Red Baron reviews. I always like to get off a minute too early for everyone to be able to make it to another vape show, do the bathroom trip, get some water, whatever they have to do. Battery Mooch, hoping you're doing well. Thank you. Hope you are too. Hi from Oz. Galisi, any news from them on the S4 charge? No, they're completely quiet. In my opinion, they're just hoping it all goes away. I am doing an update video because I have issues with their new tests and the lack of some other testing that was done. Looking forward to the video. Excellent. Yeah, nothing from them. They just ignored my last 2 or 3 emails, so I'm not talking to them. I said I'd like to ask them some questions. Well, okay, I'll ask the questions publicly in a video. They can respond then. John Benanati, missed the show. See you next week and have a blessed one. Thank you. The same to you. Sorry you missed the show. Alan Jacobson, a 9-volt battery from my smoke detector exploded on a table some days ago. What? It was a loud bang and the top was hanging by the wires. It's the first time I've heard of that with those batteries, especially since there's 7 little tiny batteries inside wired in series. They're incredibly low energy. 9-volt batteries are incredibly low energy batteries, unless you had like a lithium version or something like that. I've never heard of a 9-volt getting anything even a little bit warm if you directly short circuit it. Wow. Scott Bogfoot, thank you. Always great to spend time watching videos. Thank you for joining us tonight. And let's start to wind down. Phil Lee, they'll start worrying when their sales go away. Uh, I don't know. People, what they'll do is they'll have a clearance sale and everybody will say, oh, I'll take a chance. $12 instead of $17. I'll take a chance with that. I'll take a chance with a 240-volt shock on there. Everyone, thank you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for some awesome questions. And everyone, stay safe, stay sane, and hope to see you all next week. Take care.